Welcome to That's Why We're Friends.
The podcast where we laugh a lot, talk about real life, and hold on to faith through it all.
We're two friends navigating the oldish season of life and celebrating the kind of friendships that make it all a little easier.
So whether you're feeling overwhelmed, hopeful, or just need a laugh, this podcast is for you.
Pull up a chair and join the conversation.
Hey Sarah.
Hey Kara.
How's it going?
It is going very well.
Very well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, there's nothing bad happening. There's nothing wrong. So it's going very well. How's it going with you?
Well, similar to you, a few weeks ago, I think I remember you telling our listeners that you couldn't raise your arms because of yoga.
Yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty sore because I accidentally ended up in a Pilates class.
Okay. So for those who don't know, how does one accidentally
you don't
up
know?
in a Pilates class?
You don't know?
And then get sore from said accidental
I'll tell you, my husband and I were in a hotel.
Okay.
And I went to the workout facility.
Okay.
And I had a plan.
Okay.
Like a really good plan to jump on the treadmill for a couple miles, lift some weights, and go enjoy a breakfast.
Okay.
And there were these women that were there, and they were like, "Are you here for the class?" And I actually thought they were looking for the class themselves. And I was like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not here for the class. I don't know anything about the class." And they're like, "Well, the class was supposed to start at 7, but no one showed up." So at this point, I'm beginning to clue in that they are actually the instructors because it's 7:30.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like...
So it's very late.
Yeah, so it's very late. So they're waiting around for this class to start.
Halfway over.
That no one showed up for.
Oh.
So I said, "Well, no, I wasn't here for the class, but are you teaching a class?" And they said, "Yeah, we're going to teach a class." And I was like, "Great. I don't have to think about my workout. I'll just do whatever workout you give me." So we were standing next to the nice weights that I like. And they said, "Follow us." And I was like, "Okay, where are we going?" So they led me into this giant studio room with all these mats and yoga blocks. So I was like, "Great, yoga. Okay, I got this.
Yeah.
I know how to do yoga." And then they said to me, "We're going to use 8-pound weights." And I was like, 8-pound? I mean, I'm in my head, I'm kind of making fun of them because I'm like, 8-pound weights.
Oh, no.
Are you kidding me? Like, I didn't say it out loud, thankfully.
Sure, thankfully.
Because I'm thinking, I use weights way heavier than that. I think I'm going to be totally fine. This is not going to be a big deal.
So were you the only one?
The only
in
one.
This class?
The
That's
only
not
one.
A class. That's a private lesson.
It was a private lesson, which I probably would have paid a lot of money for had it not been a free class. 2 instructors, so they were both correcting my body.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of pressure.
It was a lot of pressure. And when I tell you we held planks for like 3 and 4 minutes at a time with weights that I thought were nothing, they were really hard. The next day, I wished I was not alive.
Oh my gosh.
I've had a few days to recover, but I'm telling you that Pilates with weights is harder than you think.
Yeah.
And so, actually, I loved it. And so I think I'm going to do more Pilates now.
Okay.
So it was great. It was fun, but it was painful and proved to me once again why I should not be boastful about the amount of weight I think I can lift.
Pride goes before the fall.
Well, it went before sore muscles, for sure. I mean, I was very grateful that I kept my mouth shut when I thought I was going to say something. Because then I was almost like, well, why don't you just give me like some 15s or 20s? Thank God I did not, because I could barely move the 8s. It was a lot.
Do you think, would you consider that an oldish thing? Like if you accidentally end up in a Pilates class that you didn't mean to be in? Is that an oldish thing? Or do you think that's just a Kara thing?
Yeah, I think, Lucy and Ethel.
Yes. Oh, that's what would have happened to them.
I think that I'm a lot like Lucy. Things happen to me. We told people last week. I stabbed my hand. Things just happen to me, I mean, I've gotten myself locked in my own backyard before.
Yes.
I mean, I've run over concrete walls. I don't know. Things happen.
They do.
So
that's why we love you.
Yeah, I know.
Keep us entertained.
I think someone like you would have asked, "What is the class like?" I just was like, "Great, let's do a class."
Yes, I think I probably would have. And then where I don't know what would have happened next, regardless of what their answer would have been,
Yes.
I don't know that my empathy or whatever it is in me would have allowed me to not take it. Like, there would have been no turning back at that point.
Because why? You felt sorry for them that no one showed up for their class?
Yes. And so, because at this point it's like, I am the class. And so if I don't go, there is no class.
Okay.
And so that's a part of me that would have, it's like I when I go in a clothing store and I look around, and especially, oh my gosh, if I try on stuff and I don't buy anything.
You feel bad?
I feel so bad. Like, I have definitely compulsive, like, I have bought things out of just this compulsion to not, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I think there was a moment where I could have said, I'm going to stick with my workout. But I just thought to myself, I'm in a hotel. I don't have to think. Like, it's hotel gyms can be hard because there's not a plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do have like some workouts on my phone that are written in my notes, and I was just going to do one of those. But for a minute, I was like, oh, this would be easy. Someone's going to tell me what to do.
Well, and they did.
They sure did. And they beat
Two of
me
them.
up. They beat me up. And can I just tell you too? One of the instructors was 72 years old.
That's so cool.
She was so freaking hot. I was like, yes, she was so beautiful. Like, she was beautiful. She had like such a strong body. And I was like, this is amazing that you're 72. And I cannot lift an 8-pound weight.
Well, that's exciting. So,
yeah, it was great.
That's when you see that and go, okay, well, if that's an option at 72, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I can do 72.
She did tell me Pilates is the key to longevity. We'll see. I know.
Okay. I mean, I think there are some things about Pilates that help with longevity, flexibility, and strength. Yes. So I would say flexibility and strength are key pieces.
I know. Everybody who's
no offense to Pilates
in their lane
thinks
their lane is the lane to longevity.
Yes.
I just think we should turn the corner and say God is sovereign and move into beholding.
He's going to decide. Yes. Flexibility and strength are good.
You know what? You need flexibility and strength to just keep your eyes focused on Jesus.
That's
behold
true.
Him.
Well done.
Flexibility to just say, I release everything to you, Lord.
Yeah.
8 pounds, 3 pounds.
Yes, whatever you want to bring into my life, I'm here for.
I'm going to do it.
Okay,
so.
I like that.
Okay.
Well done. So yes, this week we are talking about beholding. We kind of introduced that idea last week. We're intentionally being a little brief this month and allowing some space on the back end for our listeners to really kind of put into practice some of this beholding. And so we're looking at some great passages in the Gospels that really show us Jesus. And we're going to just continue talking about this the rest of this month. So today we're continuing to kind of lean into what beholding Jesus in Scripture, what that reveals to us about Him and about His character, and some kind of different pieces of His character that we see. Because I think if we were to ask people like, oh, how would you describe Jesus? I think we would all say, some of the basic, he's loving, he's kind, he's forgiving. And yes, he is all of those things, but that just scratches the surface.
Right.
There's a depth, and there's kind of a richer, fuller picture that you get when you really take the time to sit and behold, to ask the questions that we kind of talked about last week, to sit and reflect and to really try to look deeper into the passage, into what it's revealing to us about who Jesus is.
Yeah. And that's what we're giving listeners this month the opportunity to do with the extra time we would normally have on the podcast, is to say, go take these passages that we're talking about and just sit and behold Him. Because in doing so, we, like you said, we get this depth of who He is. And especially in the New Testament, the Old Testament too reflects Him. It's just, you have to dig a little harder. Yeah. The New Testament just basically lays it out. It's like the buffet, of going to one of those places. It's an all you can eat. The New Testament is like, here you go, have it all. And it's clearly laid out and clear and easy to see Him, and to see, that He is not just loving and kind. Those words come so easy, I feel like, when we think of God and Jesus, like He is loving and kind, but He's compassionate. He is powerful. Yes. He shows us His courage. He is patient. with those humans that he had to walk around with for 3 years in his ministry, because I sometimes get impatient. I'm like, seriously, Peter, again, but he's just so holy. And Jesus shows us a high view of God and his ways, and then models them for us so that we can easily also walk them out.
Man, that's great. Shows it to us and then models it.
Yeah.
So that we can do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really excited for the conversation next week, because talking about through beholding, then we become.
Yeah.
And so kind of leading up to that. So one of the places that we really see the heart of Jesus is in Matthew 11, verses 28 through 29, where he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls."
Whew. I need rest for my soul. Yeah.
So there's so much, yes, there's a message in that for us to receive for ourselves. But if we set that aside as we're looking at this idea of beholding, it's really looking at this with different eyes.
Yeah.
Of, man, what do these words reveal to me about the kind of God, the kind of man that Jesus is and was.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that there's not this like harshness, there's this gentleness.
Right.
It's compassion. There is patience, which, like you mentioned, was great for the disciples, but it's also great for us, that he's a patient God. For me, I don't want to speak for you, but just that he, from his own words, we don't even have to draw conclusions for this, because he tells us in his own, I am gentle, I am humble in heart, I will give you rest. Like, that is powerful.
Yeah.
Like, we have Jesus from his own mouth in his own words, telling us who he is. And like we looked at last week, therefore telling us who God is.
Yeah.
That God is gentle and that there is rest in him. Like, we cannot miss that.
Yeah.
And we want to let that all the way into our hearts and minds when we think about God, when we think about Jesus.
Well, and I think too, it's so sweet how he tells us those things, but he says to us, if you're weary or burdened, because how often are we so weary? And every time I read this verse, it reminds me when my dad was alive, he was just tall enough that when I would hug him, my head would sort of fall into his chest and he would put his arms around me. And, it was just this like safe, secure place that when I was weary and worn out, he would just hug me and hold on. And even for me, who's not like a toucher, there are times that I just like, I find this safety and security I did with my dad, I do with my husband. And so when I read this passage, it gives me a physical picture, like having had them in that space of like, I'm weary and I'm exhausted and I'm worn out. And could you just hold me, And he's like, just come to me. I'm gentle and humble. And I'm going to hold you until you have the strength to take your next step.
Wow. It's a beautiful picture of his heart and the promise that comes with it, that because he is who he is, that we will find rest in him. And so that speaks to any part of us where there's striving or there's anxiety or there's feeling like that I have to have it all together before I can come to him, because this clearly discounts that. Right. You're weary and you're burdened. Yeah. And so come to me and I will give you rest. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. And I think too, so often I said earlier, like I get so impatient with the disciples when you're reading stories like Peter, but it's true of my own life. I am going about my business and thinking God is good. Jesus is wonderful. He's all these things. And then something happens and I lose sight of him and I let that thing get right in front of me. Yes. And I begin to get anxious and I begin to get worried and I get stressed and I'm like, hey, Jesus, don't you see me? Like, where are you? What's going on? And, the disciples face that too. Yes. We're going to talk about here in just a second, that story in Mark. And, it's just like, he's like, hello, I'm right here. Stop looking at the thing and start looking at me. And, it's it's so easy. We're fickle people.
Yes.
We lose sight of him so easily.
Yes.
And we get distracted so easily. And I know we talked about this with our spiritual disciplines, but it's like we have so many distractions coming at us. Noises, sounds, phones, emails, texts, phone calls. Like, these things just intrude in our lives. And often on the other side of those things is something that is stressful or brings anxiety into our life.
Yes. And so then we know where to go then. The invitation to turn from all of that.
Yeah.
The answer is beholding. The answer is being in his presence.
Yeah.
Another thing that we see in his character and understand about who he is his authority.
Right.
And so in Mark 4, verse 39, it says that he got up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. Mm. And so the same Jesus who welcomes us, welcomes the weary and welcomes the burden, he also can command the storm. Yeah. He also is God and he also has authority.
Right.
And he's both. And that we talked last week about, all the different things about God are ultimately a gift for us, whether we understand it's his protection but man, we want a God that is powerful, that has authority.
Absolutely.
And so that means that, because think about, even when we're talking about your dad and your husband, there's a strength there with those men that is also part of what is comforting.
Right.
And so if it weren't for that strength and that authority, it wouldn't be the same level of comfort.
Yeah.
And so that's what's so beautiful about those things together, because it's the fact that he is God and he does have this sovereign authority. And then I can also come to him and find rest. Yeah. And that's a crazy how those all exist in the same place at the same time.
Well, and I think, this passage that you read is just one verse out of that story of the disciples were doing something with Jesus. Like he was like, let's get in the boat. Let's cross over. They're with him. You know what I mean? And I think how often we lose sight of the fact that he's with us, but we can ignore him. Like we can pretend he's not there, or we can doubt his authority in a situation. And even when we are walking in our calling with him, we often can something pops up and it distracts us. And we're just like, Jesus, I know you're right there. So I'm going to complain to you, but I'm going to try to handle this. And, so here we have the disciples. They're just like, hello, don't you care? Like, we're going to die here. I mean, how often have I said that to God? Like, this is going to be the death of me. And, they're just like, Jesus, where are you? What are you doing? And he's asleep. In his humanity, he's sleeping.
I love it.
And it just shows, though, because you can't sleep if you're not peaceful.
No.
If you have anxiety stirring around you, he was in the same storm they were in. And he knows the reality of human circumstances, that storms can bring danger. And he was not afraid to be asleep. No, and so they're freaking out, as if that storm was going to be the thing that took him out. Obviously, he's on the boat with you. He's not going to be taken out. You're not going to be taken out. And so I think just too often in our circumstances, we're the same way. We're like, God, what are you doing? Yes. I think you've forgotten that you asked us to get in this boat. You asked me to do this thing for you, and I'm doing it. Where are you? Why are you letting stressful situations come? Why are you letting circumstances happen that you didn't tell me about ahead of time? Why did you tell me that there was a plan and I'm walking in that plan, and yet something has happened that wasn't according to the plan? Yeah. And it's just, always questioning his goodness and his authority.
Yes. And the reason why beholding then becomes so important is it can feel, it may be that, we talked about the spiritual disciplines last month. Now we're talking about beholding. It can feel like maybe I'm not doing, with the spiritual discipline. I'm praying, I'm reading the scripture. But I think it's key and it's important for us to recognize that beholding is choosing to do something. Yeah. Because sometimes when those things happen or those storms come, we can kind of sit down and just kind of stop. basically kind of pull back
Yeah.
from him. Everything feels hard and kind of yucky. Like, God, why is it this way?
Yeah.
Then we kind of just tap out.
Yeah.
And so what's so beautiful about the invitation of beholding is it is a restful posture, but it's not passive. There is an intention to it. There were, I don't know how many months or weeks ago that we talked, there was something that you had read about, like, when you're in the pit and, like, kind of that first step of, like, looking up and, like, looking to God.
That was when we talked about lament, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just so clearly remember just that visual in my mind of that was actually a step.
Yeah.
Of just that choosing to look up. Quit looking at the circumstances, quit looking at the pit or the valley or whatever. But lifting our head, lifting our gaze, because that is beholding.
Yeah.
And it's choosing to just put my focus there. And so instead of tapping out, instead of just, kind of sitting down and stopping, it's still choosing to do something.
Yeah.
And that will keep you moving forward.
Right.
And so when it feels like that everything in us wants to, like, take a break or just, this is hard, that's that invitation. Come to him, all you who are weary and burdened. We will find rest, but we can't remove ourselves from it. We just need to behold him.
Yeah. I love that you pointed that out, because it does feel like sometimes when we come to him and find rest, that is doing nothing, but it really and truly is giving us the peace that we need to continue, walking through the storm until he chooses to calm it.
Yes. Giving us his peace and his truth, because there is something that's real that's just happening in the spiritual realm, that if I'm near him, if I'm looking to him, I'm looking to his word, that is filling me. That is getting inside of me. We can't always understand how it works in the spiritual realm, but it is happening.
Yeah.
Maybe through it's spiritual osmosis. We'll just
Osmosis. Gosh, if I could remember, what's the definition of osmosis? That's a lot to ask you, right?
Well, I mean, it has something to do with the transition of something through, like, it's a barrier that things are allowed to, like, kind of permeate through,
cool.
I believe, because I just remember we used to joke about, I'll put my book under my pillow when I sleep at night and maybe I'll learn it through osmosis.
By osmosis.
So I think, I could be so completely wrong, but I think it goes back to, like, talking about, like, cells or things in our body and how...
Well, I knew it was a science word. But...
Right. But how things can maybe transfer... through, like, the,
permeate through something.
Transference through something else.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
No,
that
I mean...
could be Carrie Hillier. I feel like you know the answer.
You think Carrie Hillier's listening?
Let us know.
Carrie,
please,
please send us a DM and let us know. That's our librarian friend. She knows all the things.
This is the second week in a row that I feel like you have dragged us out of our, like, realm of expertise. Like, last time it was geography,
and now it's
science
definitions.
I do remember, and I know what the mitochondria is, though.
Well, I know what a mitochondria is.
The mighty mitochondria, like the energy.
That's the powerhouse of your cells.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what, though?
What?
I don't think last week we mentioned food, but we're going to go right back to beholding.
Oh, okay, yes.
Man.
See?
We
might look at the things of the world and you're immediately going to be pulled off.
That's right. Yeah. We should have stayed with what Jesus assigned us to. Well, I think that this story really combining the two verses, the verse where Jesus says, "Come to me and I will give you rest." And then, the passage where he calms the storm, it shows us so much about his gentleness towards us as humans.
Yeah.
It shows us so much about his sovereignty over creation.
Yes.
And again, two things that I feel like I've said before, creation always speaks to me.
Yeah.
And I just also feel like when I feel like someone is protecting me and giving me, like, their strength so that I can move on, those two things, like, really draw me to Jesus and make me want to behold him more. Yes. And it just is such a good reminder to me when I feel like there's a storm in my life to just take a breath and call on him and behold him. Even sometimes, like, there are times for sure we can all get away and retreat to our quiet place, our hidden place, whatever that is for you. But there's times where you're in the middle of a grocery store or in the middle of traffic, you know, and you just need to breathe his name, to be able to behold him and bring him into your situation to give you that peace.
That's great. Breathe his name.
Yeah.
Love that. The last verse we're going to look at is Matthew 9:36. When this is talking about Jesus, it says, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd.
Wow.
Have you ever felt harassed and helpless?
Many times. Yeah. Sometimes like on today? This podcast.
Oh, no.
And sometimes in Pilates.
Well, good news. Jesus sees that.
Yeah.
And I love that it's talking about like a crowd of people, because obviously in our humanness, we see the crowd.
Yeah.
But he sees the individual. That's he sees their suffering. Yeah. He knows what's actually happening in the hearts and the minds of each one of those individual people.
Yeah, which is so great because, again, we talked about this last week. Sometimes it's super easy to look at the world at large and think, I know Jesus is good to that person, but I don't know if he's good to me. Yeah. And this reminds us that he sees every person. Yes. And his goodness, it has no prejudice. It is looking at every single human. Yeah. Every man and woman, every child, everyone is the same and equal in God's eyes. Yes. And Jesus looks at us and has compassion on us in the middle of the crowd.
Yes. And that he knows our suffering.
Yeah.
And so, again, sometimes we throw around the word suffering, and we know that, you know, ultimately Jesus suffered in a way that we're never going to experience that. But he did address in scripture the fact that we'll have trials and we will have difficulties in this world. And so he doesn't dismiss that. Yeah. He acknowledges that it is hard. We go through hard things. And so he has empathy for that. He sees that and he cares. We know when in the Old Testament, through Moses, that God says, like, I have heard the cries of my people. Yeah. And so our suffering does move the heart of God. And so again, if Jesus is the embodied representation of who God is, then God sees our suffering. Yeah. And what's so great about that is how it does match up with the character of himself that God does reveal in the Old Testament. Yeah. And that I love how scripture does that. We know it's one unfolding story from Genesis to Revelation. Yeah. And how it all fits together, but his compassion is what moves him to act. Oh, it's what caused him to act in the Old Testament, and it's also what caused him to send Jesus. Yeah. And that once then Jesus was here, his pursuit of us and his pursuit of us today, all coming from that place inside of him that's his character, that when we behold him, we begin to see that and can understand that and choose to believe that is Jesus, that is God, that is who I submit and serve and love and am trying to become more like.
Yeah. And when we behold him and we are in such awe and wonder of who he is, it is really hard to be overwhelmed by circumstances. Right. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that circumstances go away. That's not always the case. Right. You know, sometimes circumstances linger for a time or for a life, but it is hard to be overwhelmed by those when we really focus on him.
Yes. And that's kind of the whole point, right? Yeah. Like, the invitation to behold is the invitation to choose not to just sit and stare at the hard stuff. Right. But to recognize and believe, I'm going to say these words, but you understand what I mean. I'm not special in my struggle, in the hard thing. Sure. And I know sometimes we can think that we are, that like our struggle is unique. Yeah. The hard things that I've had to live through. But we are special in the sense that we are God's children, but we are not special in the hard things that we face that exempt us from his invitations for us. Yeah. Everyone has difficulties and traumas and hard things and hard realities. And so we have to resist the urge to think, oh, it's just so hard for me. Yeah. And so then that means, you know, I don't need to do this. I don't need to worry about beholding or, doing the things he's invited me, because he understands, because this is just so hard. And I just think in his love and his gentleness, he would say no, like more than ever then, because it's hard, I want you to have me.
Right.
I want you to behold me.
Right.
I don't want you to go and comfort yourself with something counterfeit. Like, I want you to have the authentic, the comforter, the one who gives peace.
Yeah.
And so we just want to resist the urge to kind of sit in that space of like, oh, but it's so hard. Like, yes, but it is for everyone.
Right.
And he still gives us these invitations and these directives to behold him, to look to him.
Yeah. And when we sit in the space of, oh, this is so hard, we're beholding our circumstances.
So, yes.
And when we behold our circumstances, all that happens is anxiety, stress, chaos, and Jesus is in none of that.
No.
He is not in anxiety, stress, or chaos. He is in peace and rest and love and kindness and goodness and all the things we've talked about his character. So why wouldn't we choose in the middle of the hard? It's a rhetorical question, I guess.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we choose to behold him? Yeah. And I know the times in my life that I've thought I'd rather sit on the floor and have a pity party than to go sit in his presence. And why? Why do I do that?
We think it's going to be comforting because it feels like it doesn't take effort, which is silly because it does, and we don't actually feel any better.
No.
And I think that's the thing. If we could borrow, some pain from the future of like, am I actually going to feel better by walking away from him now instead of walking to him?
Yeah.
And it's a discipline. It is faith over feelings.
Yeah.
It's recognizing my feelings, acknowledging them, but then kind of setting them aside and kind of almost just maybe even shutting off my brain and just I'm not gonna in my flesh try to decide. I'm just gonna do. Yeah. Because I know the outcome there is actually what I want, because I'm gonna behold him and I'm gonna experience his compassion, his authority, his care, and his gentleness. Yeah. And so when we kind of look at those different characteristics of him this week, and there's infinitely more, but one of the things that we're asking is, what part of his character do we most need right now? Do we need that compassion? Do we need the authority? Or do we need that picture of his heart that we see of that place to come and rest? And so that's a great kind of just reflection question for this week of like, okay, what do I need specifically as I'm beholding him this week? Because then that would be the passage for you to meditate on. Yeah. As you think about the part of his character that you really need to gaze at this week.
Yeah. And I think too, whenever we think about what part of his character do I really need in my life right now, it also gives us a perspective on what am I missing? Because he is all the things that we need. Like anything that you need, he is. Yes. And so what am I overlooking about him because I'm too focused or too overwhelmed by my circumstances? So I loved last week. I loved this week. I think, it's just one more opportunity for people to take a passage, any passage you choose. We also, have read a passage here and ask those two questions we gave to people last week of what does this show me about Jesus and what does this reveal about God? And, again, we can't stress it enough. In looking at him, it's going to overshadow whatever we have going on in our lives. Yes. So,
which is the whole point.
Yeah, great. Which is great.
Love it. And the next week we get to talk about how our beholding leads us to becoming more like him. It's going to be great. And then last week we have a guest.
Oh, so that's exciting.
I know, we haven't talked about that, so that's going to be great too.
Yeah, so that's exciting. Well, I need to become more like him, so I'll be here listening next week. I'm going to just let you talk.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. We'll see how that goes.
Okay, I can't go without talking.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I'm sure I'll have some other shenanigan that I've got myself into between now and then.
It'd be like, what can we pick on Kara about
can you
next
do
week?
Something crazy so that we can pick on you?
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you because then it would ruin the vibe. Like, I feel like we've got a trend going and we don't want to break up the
It's just going to be trend. The make fun of Kara show.
I don't know that anybody is making fun of. We're enjoying the shenanigans.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I know I can be a shenanigan all in and of myself.
We'll see what happens. So,
what are you going to do this weekend or week to enjoy the life God's given you?
So it's a little TBD right this moment. So our youngest is a sophomore at Oklahoma University. They, Parents Weekend is always like a really big deal in the fall, but there's a spring Parents Weekend as well.
That is
not
so interesting.
Yeah, it's not, as big because they're on a football game and stuff, but there is a spring Parents Weekend this weekend.
Though, they could put it around another game, like baseball or soccer.
Oh, yeah. And there may be, I haven't looked into like all of the details, but my husband had a minor, back procedure this week. He has these like nerve ablations from time to time just to try to help with his back pain. And so we kind of just, when he does that, we kind of play it by ear for a week or so to see how he's feeling. And so we'll kind of wait till a little bit later in the week, and then we'll kind of have an idea. So I'm sure, it'll either be in, being up there and enjoying some time with her, or just, intentionally like, resting and kind of having some downtime.
Well, either one of those sound amazing.
Yes. What about you guys?
We still kind of are hanging out this weekend. I do have a fun dinner this week with a group of girlfriends from CrossFit, so I'm excited about that. And, I feel like April is off to a great start. Hasn't been too crazy hectic, which always makes me like, what's around the corner? But
only good things.
But either way, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Jesus, no matter what's coming down the pipe.
Exactly.
Well, this has been great. I've so enjoyed this conversation, and just a reminder to everybody, go and spend some time beholding him, digging into some scripture, seeing more of his character and who he is in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Go enjoy the life that he gave you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for spending time with us today on That's Why We're Friends.
We hope you laughed, felt encouraged, and are walking away with a little more hope for your day.
If you love this episode, make sure to follow the podcast so you never miss what's next.
And share it with a friend who needs a little encouragement, because that's why we're friends.
Some products or services we mention may be paid promotions. Any advice shared should be confirmed with a qualified professional. Our conversations and opinions are meant for encouragement and entertainment only.